Well, hello and welcome to all of your viewers here today. I'm Fiona Langsharp, IBCLC, Director of Communications and MC here at Gold Learning. Well, today we're talking all about our Gold Lactation Online Conference 2021, and our special guest here today is Liz Brooks. We'll be chatting with her in just a moment. If you want to know more about what's coming up with the conference, of course, you can go to the website right now at goldlactation.com. You can register for this event for the entire conference. We've got some amazing presenters this year, and of course, some workshops and interactive sessions as well. Coming up on March 29th is Nikisha Killings. She is going to be our opening keynote. Now, that presentation is going to be free and open access to everyone, everywhere. So you're welcome to come to that event. You will need to register for it, however, so you can go to the website and do that. But you will be able to listen to the live event and, of course, the recording as well. Well, I would like to welcome Liz Brooks. Welcome back to Gold, Liz. It's so good to have you here today. Now, Liz has been with us here before, renowned in the field in ethics and lactation, but I will allow her to introduce herself to you and, of course, let her tell you a little bit about where she is in the world and what she does. So go ahead, Liz, please.
It's nice to see you again, Fiona, and I'm happy to be back with Gold again. And hello to everybody who's watching this. My name is Liz Brooks. I am an IBCLC and I'm a lawyer. I live in the suburbs of Philadelphia, which is in the state of Pennsylvania and the East Coast of the United States. I have a private practice, although I have put my home visiting elements of my private practice on hold during COVID. And I do most of my work when I'm doing clinical care bedside at two different baby-friendly hospitals. In addition to that, I do a lot of writing and teaching and speaking on online venues in person where that can be done safely. And of course, just online, discussing primarily legal and ethical challenges for people who are offering support in what I call lactation land. And I'm happy to be doing it again for Gold.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. Well, it's great to hear that you're still able to do some work. But tell me about the hospital visits. What sort of restrictions have you had with that in your area?
It's been about a year now since the pandemic crisis started, and we've had the full panoply of issues. Right now, what we like as bedside caregivers is that the visitors are restricted, and there's just the two primary parents, the two primary caregivers for the baby are in the room, and that allows a lot of time for the family to get to know the baby and get to know one another and get to know the cues. And it is easier for all of the clinical staff to take care of families because they're not coming in and interrupting a
Mm,
beautiful new family introduction ceremony. By the same token, I think for some families that's really tough. And we know
mm,
early on in the crisis, there were some families that were being separated, and they were
mm,
giving birth by themselves and taking care of the baby alone in the hospital and then bringing the baby home. And thankfully now the prevailing public health recommendation has wizened to the fact that this is not the way Mother Nature would have ever intended it to
mm.
be. But it is difficult. And then, of course, we have the extra added requirements of protective equipment. So I'm wearing a mask and I call them science fair glasses, but, goggles.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a lot more hand washing now, and we're just much more conscious of universal precautions. And so the way in which we approach clinical care is no different in the sense that we're seeing families. We will suit up to see families or parents that have tested positive for COVID or who have chosen not to be tested. And then we treat them as though they're positive. And it's hard because we don't have our entire faces to teach and to demonstrate things about a baby's mouth, but we make it happen because it has to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. I was just walking myself through the steps of, seeing clients and what we have to do and how we suit up, hand wash, all the extra precautions of what we
All that
do.
stuff.
Yeah, but we're still showing up. I mean,
Hmm.
that's the bottom line. We still want to show up. And similar to you, actually, Liz, I haven't been seeing people in their homes just prior till December. That's just when we had our unique sort of shutdown here where I'm living. And I have been able to go into the hospital a couple of times, although that has sort of rotated with the restrictions depending on sort of where we're at as well. But as far as, getting to the point where, we will still go out and see clients. I think that's right around the corner. But again, we will be putting that extra precaution of protective gear on as well. So it's important that we're all striving towards the same goal still, but with some extra precautions as well. So that will be
Well,
important.
I've been surprised, speaking only for myself, I've been
Hmm.
surprised to hear about how very successfully lactation consultants have been able to use telehealth to help families through a computer. When the crisis first hit in March of 2020, I was very skeptical about, how could you possibly have a good lactation consultation without having the parent and the baby in front of you. And it turns out there's an awful lot of stuff that we can figure out. And thankfully now there are some really excellent opportunities for people to learn how to do it, to get from other professionals who are doing telehealth, to learn what you need in terms of lighting and props and expectations for the family. And the clinic, there's an outpatient clinic associated with one of the hospitals I work with, and they've done both in-person and
Mm,
telehealth all throughout COVID. But I like to suggest to families that if you schedule a telehealth consult, it's an easy way to know that things are going well, or maybe with a few tweak ups. But in a telehealth consult, the lactation professional is always going to be able to figure out that, we really need to see you in person. And then they know it's worth the extra effort that it takes these
yes.
days to get masked up and get the car seat, and who's going to do the texting when you get there, and how do we park, and who can do this and who can do that. It's hard work getting out and getting just basic healthcare meetings and appointments met. And so I really admire the fortitude of families, and I'm so grateful that so many of our colleagues have figured out wonderful and clever ways to do
Mm.
this work and to share their tips and tricks with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I am too grateful, just listening and learning from others who have been able to forge ahead and find ways to do it. How you train families to do certain things when they're with the infant and you can't be there, to rule out certain things, or as you said, to mitigate whether there is a real concern and a visit is required, which I almost feel might become part of our future as well. That might be a normal practice that we can start to triage families. Back in the
Yes.
day of Lactation League leader, we were triaging all the time on the phone, and finding out what was going on and whether that was just a warm line. But we were able there to support and say, this sounds like you need some more support. And, it'll be important for you to see someone outside of Lactation League as well. So there's
Well,
good
and
things there.
and nicely too, for those of your viewers and learners who are IBCLC, our certifying organization, the International Board of Lactation Consultant Examiners, issued an advisory opinion in April of 2020 that very clearly describes the legal and ethical authority for IBCLCs to do telehealth, and it declares that this is an appropriate form of clinical care for a family. And while we all knew that
Mm.
inherently, it's very nice to have that legal authority standing behind us. And I feel that, as the person who likes such documents, that it was prudent for me to share that with your learners.
Yeah, absolutely. I was so glad to see that they also caught up to or were able to meet the needs of the lactation consultants, the IBCLCs, and then, of course, ultimately our families as well. So having that sort of stamp of approval, which continued into mentorship as well, where
Hmm.
you could provide additional support for those who are up and coming behind us, as they work towards their qualifications as well. So
Absolutely.
really
Absolutely.
good things that we can take away from of what we're doing, despite the fact that we're in a very serious crisis. Well, boy, we could talk all day about this. Is
I
just so
know.
exciting, right? But let's talk a little bit about what's coming up at Gold, because I know this is going to be a very special type of presentation, not a lecture style. This is going to be really more of an interactive. I know you're going to be polling the delegates during the session, but you've also got some interactive questions as well for the audience that they will be able to find online with your presentation. So I'm excited to say that that will be available online at the website as well, at goldlactation.com. So you'll be able to find it. But Liz, the question I have for you is really, what are we going to be learning? I see the title of your presentation is Using a Cool Head When You're on the Hot Seat, Ethical and Legal Topics That Make Us Sweat and how to avoid getting burned. So just give us a little bit of an inside scoop here on what we should anticipate for that presentation.
Well, so here we are on the online learning format that Gold provides, talking about effective use of telehealth to take care of families. And one of the things we're going to explore is, when isn't it a good idea for us to be using these readily accessible platforms, social media platforms, to be discussing clinical issues? And many of us in the healthcare professions do this wrong. And so there will be guidance for when it is appropriate to use social media platforms to discuss things with professionals, when it's appropriate to discuss things with families, when it's appropriate to be teaching people and you don't have the family in front of you, perhaps when you're anonymizing or de-identifying the client or the patient. And the rules are not difficult, but most people don't understand them, and most people are sensitive to the fact that they can get in trouble if they do it wrong. So I will endeavor to reassure people of how they can easily follow the rules, not only for the lactation profession, but for all the healthcare professions, and indeed the laws that stand behind those professions, and allow them to feel that they can access the expertise of their colleagues and serve the families that want to communicate using these electronic means in a way that is still fitting with what they are obligated to do if they're acting and practicing in a professional manner.
All right. Well, that's given us enough to think about for sure. I know that these things are really important as we spend a lot of our time communicating online, not only with each other, but of course with the potential client. And so we want to be sure that we are activating all of those things ethically as well. So I will look
Hmm.
forward to, you know, lessening the sweat and avoiding getting burned, as it says in your presentation. So
That's
thank
right.
you. Thank you so much, Liz. I really appreciate it. So just a quick reminder for everyone listening in, if you actually have any questions for Liz about this presentation, you can drop them in the comments below. Perhaps you have something that you want to know, a burning question. You can also go to our website, of course, and check in with some of the pre-questions that are going to be for this particular interactive sessions as well. So Liz has set out some questions for you so you can get warmed up and ready for it. And that being said, do come to the live event because this is going to be interactive. Now, for most folks, it will be on Monday, the 26th. Some of other folks, it will be in a different time zone. So that means you'll need to go to the website at goldlactation.com to check out exactly what time it's going to be for you and what day it's going to be on as well. Well, thank you once again for Liz Brooks for being with us here today. It's been fabulous sitting down talking with you. I really appreciate it.
It's wonderful to see you, Fiona. I look forward to seeing all of you as delegates at Gold Learning later on.
Thank you so much. And again, a big thank you to all of our viewers here today. Thanks for joining us once again, and we'll see you all online. Bye bye for now, everyone.